is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the second part of episode 44, because we're going to give a little bonus episode because of my early departure last night from the podcast. I'm Kyle.
I'm Joe.
And let's get right into it. So my wife is fine. Anyone who listens to the first episode, I'm just going to put them out when I put these out on audio. I'm just going to do one right after the other. So it'll be two separate podcasts because I don't really want to deal with editing them together. So I had to run off because there was a slight medical emergency. What's going on, Tyler? Thanks for popping back in. And my wife cut herself opening an avocado and did not take it well. So we had to get that figured out. She's fine, no stitches or anything like that. So we got her all bandaged up, and it was an adventurous night.
Let that be a lesson to you vegans. Fruits, vegetables, and anything else will try to kill you.
They will try to kill you. Man, I'm going to jump off that segue and get off of my wife entirely on this podcast and jump into that. I have been down such a dark wormhole on vegan TikTok. Dude, it's so insane. But I'm almost somewhat addicted to it now. Like, I check to see who's live so I can sit in there and just be like, yeah, all right, pop me up there. Like, because that's the entire time I spend in there is I listen to these idiots talk and just like be like, yeah, have me on. I'd love to talk to you guys about this. I'd love to have a conversation with you. At the end of the day, every time I do get on, I've only been on once, but I'm trying. I am very nice. Like, I'm not me to these people. I'm very curt. I've had them be like, don't say that. Like, and they're all British. I don't understand why they're all British. But like, I've changed my language and like made it work and stuff like that. But these guys, they just have so much pent up divorced parents rage that it just goes off the rails. I don't know.
You said he kicked you off that.
Yeah, he sure did. Because at the let me pop this up. Tyler from Evergreen Farms. I got a notification on TikTok. The House passed a bill to ban it. True. Yes, the House did pass it with, it was something like 350 to the rat. Like, it was an overwhelming vote to ban TikTok.
Oh,
but
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it still has to go through the Senate. More than likely, it's going to pass. But it's such a weird thing because the language isn't right. The first time they tried to ban it, the language was right, where they're like, they're taking our intellectual properties, they're like hacking into your phones, they're doing all this, that, and the other thing. And more than likely, they're doing that. I'm not like, I wouldn't be shocked by that. I definitely get more spam.
So is every other platform.
Exactly. So is every
tapped into.
This time around, that's still there. Like, that's still part of the bill. But I think it was the congressman from Mississippi is the one who's championing, like, who's bringing this to the floor. And he said the quiet part out loud. He's like, well, we just have growing worries about the fact that TikTok has become the number one news source for people under 30. And it's like,
we could get our own news.
Right. Yeah. They can't control what news is going out. Like, they can't put out what they really want. Like, I don't know. It's true. It's absolutely true. Like, what he's saying is correct, but it's them going at it this way. It just kind of shines a bad light of just like, so what are you doing? And then the other part of this bill is like, well, TikTok can continue to be an app in the United States if ByteDance, which is the owner of TikTok, which is a Chinese company, sells to an American company. And it's like, all right, now let's break that one down a little bit. That's the shadiest thing I've ever heard. So now the government can come in and say, hey, this other company that is in another country, granted, it is China, and I am like, all right, I get it. has to now sell to an American company if they want their product in the United States. And it's like, all right, so why haven't you done that with like Spotify or any of these other apps that are run out of other countries?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing there? So
You're accusing them of stealing intel. So you want to take that platform over to still make it accessible to the public in America. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, they know more than us. We better hurry up and take the information also.
Well, it's
not that they're not selling it back to them anyway.
Yeah. TikTok's been a Wild West show this week. It really has. Because again, everyone's posting, they're talking about it. I posted one. I did. I'll be honest. I joined the group. I'm on TikTok now. I have to do all these things. I don't know. But the amount of people that are screaming on there, it's like they're taking my free speech. This is a free speech platform where people can post their beliefs and what their content, that they're true them. I heard someone say they're true them. And I was like, okay, all right, let's have a little conversation about that. Because half of my content gets flagged or restricted, or TikTok's just like, absolutely not. That's blocked 110%. And that's not free speech. I don't have free speech on that platform. I have very, very edited, very restricted speech.
Yeah.
Like, I put out a thing today. I'm trying to do more lives. Lives is like, that's what they're pushing. They're pushing doing the lives and stuff like that. And out of the shop, it's fine. I'm doing something. I can stay interactive with the chat, stuff like that. It's interesting. People want to see it. When I do lives here, it's like 15 people. And it's like, it's cool. You have some cool conversations, and every now and then you get a bump. But it's not numbers. Like, you're not putting up numbers just sitting here chatting, like just to a camera by yourself. Unless you have huge tits, then you're fine. Then does not matter what you do. It really doesn't. You'll have 1,000 people in there just because. But I'm trying to do like set up, not even, I don't want to call them debates. I want to call them conversations with like vegetarians and vegans. Like, I want to have like an actual conversation. Because at the end of the day, the thing that keeps me in there is I firmly believe that people like us, people who raise our own food, we process all our own food. We help farmers be able to get the healthiest meat possible. We agree on a good 80% in some parts of it with what vegans believe. Like, we want to move out of factory farming. We don't want animal cruelty. We want these animals to have the best lives humanly possible. But then they just look at you, and that's what happened the live I got on, is it's like, well, you're still a murderer, click. Like, and it's like, okay, if you want to be 5 years old about it, sure, I'm a murderer.
And that's the thing, like, they're all for getting away from factory farms and, animal cruelty and all this other stuff. But they get all their information from the government resources.
Right. Well,
like,
so what I did today was I put out a TikTok sitting right here, just being very nice and talking and just being like, hey guys, I want to do this. Most of my TikToks right now are getting anywhere between 350 and like 600 views. Like, that's kind of where I'm sitting on my TikToks right now, which is pretty nice. Like, that's pretty good. Yeah. And I had to edit and upload this video 4 separate times because it would not go into the For You page. First of all, because of violent content. Then it was because of wordage used. And then they just flat out said, like, oh, we're not going to put this in the For You page because it doesn't meet the criteria of what we put in the For You page. And I'm like, all right. So, like, I had to go in and I literally bleeped out words like war and murder and like bleeped them out and put boxes over my mouth so you couldn't even read them. Like, and I put scary words over it. I think the last time I did it, I'm like, this is stupid. Like, And it still only has something like 30 views on
Yeah.
it. And it's like,
Yep.
what? What? That's real free speech. That's the free speech that everyone's talking about. Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, the kid that I know that we had a discussion. We didn't argue or nothing, but like I told him, I said, your whole premises is you can get cancer from red meat and it's so bad for you. It's like you're going to the grocery store and buying chemically treated vegetables to eat.
Right. Well, it's also
You cannot tell me that's healthier
all of
than me
those
processing my cow I raised on my grass.
in all of those studies, they're not like we took these 100 people and we've raised them in this building and we only fed them meat or 50 of them meat and 50 of them veggies for 60 years. And the people who ate meat got cancer more. It's some guy on a phone going, "Do you eat red meat?" And some guy eating a cheeseburger he just got from McDonald's goes, "Yeah."
Yep.
Like, that's it. They're not talking about, like, all the chemicals, what you're eating red meat in. Like,
Yep.
again, they're not coming around and testing us, mostly because farmers don't go to the doctor anyway. So it's we're just out here. Nobody knows how healthy we are. We're not
Yeah.
healthy.
Yep. I did see that they passed a thing for labeling that if it wasn't born, raised, processed, and packaged in America, it has to have a separate label.
Good.
Yeah, I just
Which
seen it
it
yesterday or the day
which
before
it, like,
yesterday.
always did. Like, when I
Mhm.
was, what, 14 years ago when I was working at a grocery store, it always had that. It's very recently that it hasn't.
Yeah, because we're importing more meat now than we ever were, but they just opened up. I forget what country it is to import more meat because our beef shortages for our breeding stock and supplies. Like cattle prices right now are ridiculous. Our local sale barn, which is like 30 minutes away from me, their Black Angus Holstein Cross bull calves, day old bottle calves, are going around. I think the high last week was $8 and something a pound. That's 100-pound bull calf is 800 and something dollars for
That's
a
in
couple day old bottle calf,
that's insane. That's
and
insane.
it's
'Cause
happening
even like
all
back when
over.
I was looking at calves, like a Holstein Angus cross was maybe like $300.
If you're, yeah, and that
Yeah, if
I
around here.
I started my first cattle herd when I had extra goat's milk. I paid $25 a piece for two Angus Holstein Cross heifers, and that's how I started my breeding herd.
That's crazy.
It was when people were first getting into playing around with the Angus cross on the dairy,
Right.
and the prices weren't that great. Like you were lucky to spend for when it first started. They first started playing around with crosses. You could still go to the auction and get 100-pound bull calf for around $100,
Right.
80. It wasn't Jersey bull calves you could pick up for 10, 20, $30 all day long.
Oh, yeah.
If you were lucky, and if the farmers, a lot of the farmers for a long time, the auction houses told them, don't even bother shipping your bull calves here because we're going to charge you to sell them. You're
Right.
not getting a check. You're paying us to sell your calves for you because they're not going for anything. And that was Holstein calves, Jerseys, Brown Swiss, anything that was dairy, you couldn't give them away
Right.
for up until like the last 2 years. And then the last 4 months, because our shortage, they're just going like, there ain't no way I'm spending anywhere from $600 to $1,100 for a bottle calf that it's a couple days old from an auction house. Like,
That's
no,
insane. Like,
you got a 50-50 chance that it's even going to live. And then you're going by someone else's word they got colostrum. So even if they do live and they didn't get their colostrum, they're going to be one of those small runty calves that never grow. You're going to have way more money into it than you ever will. So now you spend $1,000 on a bottle calf. You got to feed for at least 24 months because they're got Holstein cross into them to get
oh,
any
yeah.
kind of meat capacity on them to make it worth processing.
Right. And you're going to be bottle feeding for how long? I haven't done a bottle calf. So
at minimum 8 weeks. I do minimum 8 weeks. A lot of the big dairies have dropped it down to like 4 to 6 weeks.
Jesus.
Yeah. I like going, if I'm bottle raising, I switch them over at 2 weeks to a bucket just to
Right.
make it easier. I like to keep my bottle animals at least 12 weeks on milk.
Right. That makes
At
sense.
least.
But for anyone who hasn't bought a bag of milk powder or milk replacer, it's what I think the last one I bought was like $60 or it's something. It's something stupid
I think it's almost 100 now
yeah.
locally
Yeah.
for good milk replacer. And for
right.
anybody that hasn't done any bottle raising of animals, when you buy milk replacer, they have a soy and they have a 100% milk protein. Do not buy any plant-based milk replacer. Buy the milk protein milk replacer. And even that I don't like using. If you
Right.
can feed your animals anything, I always go whole milk from the store before I buy a replacer if I can.
Right.
I just, especially with goat kids and lambs, I've
Right.
had better luck with that. They don't get diarrhea or constipated as often as I notice. From what I understand, you have to mix the milk replacer perfect for them
Right.
to keep from having issues, and it's just as easy. Now, raw milk from my cows is by far the best,
Right. Obviously.
or from the goats.
Mm.
I raised plenty of bottle calves on goat milk, and I've raised plenty of goat kids and lambs on regular raw cow milk.
Yeah.
And anything that you can get raw from goat or cow, I mean, I'm sure sheep milk would be fine too. I've never milked a sheep, but it's not in my forte of things that I ever want to do.
Have you seen that former NFL player that milks elk?
No.
I don't remember his name. I don't even think I saw it on TikTok. I think it was a Facebook reel that came across at one point, and I think he calls it milk, or no, I forget. But yeah, he milks elk. So he just has a bunch of pendant elk, and he just brings like a Yeti thermos out, and just slowly walks up and just starts milking elk. And he says it's the healthiest.
I'm sure it is.
Milk. I'm
Just like
sure
elk meat.
it's great, but he also said it tastes disgusting.
Yeah, I'm not. There
I'm
ain't
like,
no
what?
way.
It's like he's like selling it.
If
For
I don't
something.
enjoy eating it or drinking it,
I'm not going to drink
wasting my time on it.
No.
Now I could get on the train of raising elk for meat.
Right.
That'd be
Yeah,
pretty
for
cool.
sure.
But
We'll prelude into next week's episode, and I don't remember the farm, and that makes me look like a jackass. So I apologize, but we have a elk and yak farmer coming on next week, who's local to me. So I'm pretty excited to ask her questions. Hopefully, get an invite down.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too, just to see the setup and stuff. I always intrigued in having the game like that on a farm. Is that for a while when I didn't have farm animals, I was highly considering trying to start a deer farm. My two passions put into one. I love farming and I love hunting.
Hey, Joe, I've been there before. I've looked up prices. I get it.
Yeah. And I'm like, that would be awesome. But at the same time, the infrastructure and the permits and.
Well, that's just it. It's like you're not holding an elk with 4 strands of electric. No. She's got 8-foot tall woven wire fence.
Yeah.
Like just that alone is crazy. Then I know who her processor is. And then it's just finding a USDA inspector that will deal with elk.
Mm-hmm.
Finding a USDA inspector that will deal with yaks. And yak is like, you can understand, but it's like, oh yeah, no, they'll take that. And it's like a lot of places won't.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what are you talking about? Like taking yaks? No. Some places will not deal with exotics. And it's like yak it's technically an exotic.
From what I understand, there's a whole nother ballpark of paperwork for exotics.
I'm sure.
And containment purposes also.
A
lot of people don't want to deal with it because it's a whole different ballgame with containment. And
you have to be permitted to have ungulates like that. Like, what is the deer Latin name? I forget. But like any deer whatsoever, you have to have special permits,
Yeah.
inspections, all of
Hmm.
it. Which part of me is like, I'm very libertarian, and I don't think there should be anything like that. But there's a
Yeah.
part of me that goes, that makes sense a little bit. Like, I understand that why the state does that on that scale. You don't
Hmm.
need some dude with chicken wire, and he gets a couple red stags at a hunting park and is like, this will be fine. And then all of a sudden, 10
Yeah.
years later, which again, 10 years later, there could be a breeding population of red deer around. There's a there's a
That'd be
spotty.
sweet.
Yeah. I mean, then now I'm saying it out loud. I'm like, I lied. I absolutely lied. I hate all of it. No government regulation of exotics.
So funny story. A couple of years back, up in the town that I grew up in, I think she was she was a youth hunter. Took I can't remember if it was a red stag doe, but it was a large, like, this thing was massive. It was a doe deer. I can't remember the specific breed, but it was like 200 and something pounds.
Oh my god. Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
probably a red deer.
Yeah, it was something massive, but they don't even know. Like, we don't have any of those farms around in
Well,
that area.
it's
They
like
have no idea where it came from.
yeah, the property I used to hunt in like central New Hampshire, their deer were crossed, like because they had a deer farm down there that they had a bunch of escapees. So like all the deer in that area were bigger, like they had
Mhm.
crosses. And I mean, it's everywhere. Everywhere has got hunting parks now. Everywhere
Mhm.
has something set up, and it's you're never going to be a perfect 100% like on
Yeah.
fencing. Like you're not.
Yeah,
Well,
north of
that'll
us.
segue into the next part, but it's yeah, you're never going to be perfect on fencing for anything. Now all of a sudden you fence off hundreds, if not thousands, of acres,
Yeah.
and you're going to try and keep all that fence together. Who's going to run that every day? You're going to
I
pay
heard
someone.
some states require double fencing if you're gonna
Yeah,
have any kind of exotic or wild species.
right,
Whitetails necessarily aren't exotic because they're pretty much cover
right.
all of the United States, but I almost agree. Like, if I was gonna do it, I probably would spend the extra money and do a double, like an
Yeah,
outside fence and then an inside. So if they break through, at least you got another safety barrier to keep them contained. Because
right,
that would be my biggest fear. My $10,000 prized whitetail buck getting loose and some asshole smoking it,
right.
and I'd be furious.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't blame him, because if I had a freaking
No, do you have
crazy,
this
non-typical
monster
whitetail
typical
buck running
whitetail?
across the
Yeah,
field, I
yeah,
mean, for the tags that are in their ears at a long distance shot, it's not. There's fields around here. You're 3, 4, 500 yards. You're not
yeah.
going to see those ear tags, and you're definitely not in the adrenaline of the moment of a
Even if
massive
you
deer running across the
even if
field.
you do see the ear tag, you're not going to see it past the antlers. And again,
Yeah,
I don't blame that person at all. But it's
I
like,
mean,
yeah, I blame myself because I didn't fence it right.
yeah,
But yeah, and it's like we have pigs in New Hampshire and Maine, 100%. There have been enough sightings at this point that I fully believe it. I have so many people say I have pigs in my field, and I don't believe that. I've had a pile of fermented corn out there for 2 months that hasn't been touched. I'm like, there's
Bigfoot
no
still hasn't come and took it.
nope. I'm like, there's no
No,
pigs here.
he didn't even take that pre-done mash to make his moonshine out in the hills, New
Exactly.
Hampshire. Son
Exactly.
of a bitch.
Didn't do it. So, but there are so many pictures from the western part of the state. I've seen pictures out of Maine 20 minutes from here. Like,
Mhm.
I know, like, they're around for sure, but the state doesn't want to do anything about it. The state doesn't want to, because then all of a sudden it's a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've seen
Same thing with
I've seen some pictures of some bruisers because again, it's not escaped domestics.
yeah.
It's Russian boars coming out of these hunt clubs. So they're bruisers.
Yeah, we had some few years back get loose out of a hunt club, and so the DEC came out, shoot them. You see a wild pig or even question it's a wild pig, shoot it. Year round, no questions asked. Now they changed in the last 2 years. You cannot shoot, just report it to your local DEC officer.
That's That's what we have. We can't shoot pigs if we see them in the woods because they could belong to someone.
So on my property,
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
honest with you, if my animals get loose and they're on somebody else's property and they shoot them and I find out about it, that's my fault for not keeping my animals where they belong.
Yeah, congratulations. Would you like me to cut up that pig for you?
I'm going to charge you for it. I'm going to charge you for
Yeah,
it.
I'm going to charge you for it for sure. But I will cut up that pig for you. Yeah, man, it's nuts. But speaking of, I almost contributed to the feral pig population in Effingham today. Oh, it's been a day. I'm sitting with the kiddos. My wife's working. We're relaxed on the couch. I don't know what was on. It was probably my daughter trying to put on Cocomelon and me threatening to throw the TV out the door. It's not allowed. It's not allowed when I'm home. I may be a jerk. I may be a bad dad, but Cocomelon is not allowed in the house while I'm home. And I hear a horn honk right in front of the house, and I'm like, I was almost mad. I'm like, who's honking right outside my house? And I turned just in time to see three more of my feeders go running down the driveway into the middle of the road. I'm like, oh God. Now I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I looked at the 5-year-old and I was like, that is going to go right now. Put on Cocomelon. I literally pulled out Cocomelon. I'm like, go ahead, put on Cocomelon. She was like, awesome. I go screaming out and grab a bucket with some feed. They're over at the shop. They're sniffing around over there by the kill pit, or not the kill pit, the kill floor. And I'm like, all right. And I like get by and I'm yelling. And I hear my neighbor, Kyle, some of your pigs are out. I'm like, I know. Bringing them back. One of them, who's super friendly, comes right up as soon as she sees the bucket. Like, oh, hey. The other two were playing with a tarp. So I have to walk over to them, get their attention, walk them all the way back. 2 of them went into the barn, like back into the fence. And then they're just pacing back and forth like they can't get back. So I close that barn door. Another one goes into one of the corrals. And I got to try and chase him around. Goes halfway back out to the field. He comes back. And I have to like move some fencing, get them all in. And I'm like, what the hell? So now I'm just walking. Like I'm counting the pigs. I counted them like 5 times. And now I'm just walking the fence. And I go over and I'm like right at one of the corners. They had just dug out a whole section and just got themselves under. I'm like, what the heck? The ground's not frozen. The fence was good the last time I tested it. What is going on? And I go in, finally, like I calm down. I'm like, they're not going anywhere. They're eating. Toss them another bucket. Like, just stay distracted for a minute. And I look, and the ground wire is completely pulled out. Like, it's not in the clamp anymore. And I'm like, all right, that's probably it. Let me go turn off the electric fence just in case, so I don't zap myself when I turn this back on. Go in. The electric fence charger is just completely unplugged. I'm like, wow, this is good. It was me. It had to have been me. Like, I had to just, when I was doing fencing last week. So it's just been off for a week. But I'm like, all right, get everything hooked back up, get it turned on. I've got, I think it's like 3 joules running through it right now. And I'm like, okay, like this should be good. And they are confident because they've had a week with no electric fence. So they just like walk right up to it. And the first 2 like launched them off. Like Joe was like, oh, perfect. Fantastic. Ground's not frozen anymore. And you're standing in 2 inches of mud. Joules might have been wrong too. I forget the calculation on it.
Yeah, joules is technically the capacity, the holding capacity of what it's putting out for storage.
Right.
And then usually I think it's volts is what you're looking at on your tester.
Right. Yeah. So it's at 3 volts at the moment, which works. It's fine. I need to go through and just my electric fence, it took a turn. Like that whole paddock that the breeders were in, I just went in, tore all that out, get that ready for earthwork. And as soon as all the feeders are done, I'm going to go in, tear all that out, redo it, put up hard panel fencing around where the barn is. So that way they can't get out again, and just completely overhaul the whole thing.
At least you have hard panels. My pasture, half of my pig pasture right now is buried in mud.
Yeah.
from my pigs this year. Like, it's bad. And then I was this past week, because the way we're doing the dirt work for the shop, I had to tear down some of my pasture for the cows
Right.
and move it. So I put a temporary fence up. And as I was walking down to where the spring is, where I dammed it up for the cows to drink out of for the winter,
Right.
my main feed wire to the whole farm, the pigs, the cow pastures, was one of the calves ran through it, and it was completely unhooked, laying on the ground, snapping. I don't know how long it was like that, because I don't check it every day.
Right.
Luckily, my breeding stock don't test the fence very often.
Right.
If I had feeders in there, they would have been running all over.
For
the
sure.
Piglets, those they're small enough to get through the cattle panel, but they have struggles, and that's all I have. They've been out running everywhere. Driveway, in the barn, tearing everything apart. My barn currently looks like your barn did when they were getting in there. Like, everything.
Exactly.
Bags,
it looks awful. Yeah. That's the thing about piglets. They're just everywhere.
I finally got to the point where it was starting to get cleaned up. I was getting piles of stuff, scrap metal, ready to be for somebody to come get it. And
now I
just cleaned it up today. I was working on a couple projects in there, and then I walked in there again, and everything's pulled out and strewed all over the place again. I'm like, you guys are so lucky the smokehouse isn't hooked up yet. I will roast every single one of you right now for dinner and be done with you.
Yeah.
And then I'll sit out there and watch them. I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Yeah,
I enjoy this. I enjoy having the babies.
Yeah, I love you guys. You're great. Keep doing what you're doing. You're fine. Yeah, and that's the hard part about piglets. They're just I keep saying this. I can't wait for my 2 months of TikTok fame when I have piglets again.
Yeah, I got to get more video. I got to do an update video on those. I'm going to do a smokehouse reveal video.
Right.
Kind of like what it comes with, talk about the brand a little bit, and then I'll probably do a separate one of the install.
Right.
Just like a specific install video, because there is no videos on that Pro Smoker 300 SS.
Right.
None.
So you got to do something for sure.
Because I tried looking, they have a lot on the 150 hand load model, but nothing on the larger 300 model. And I'm sure they're probably similar, but when you order the Model 300 and you're looking up how to hook it up, you want specifically that in case there is differences.
Right.
There's nothing. And it's luckily, so far I read through the book a little bit. It's not hard at all. Like, a little bit of electrical knowledge and know how to run the exhaust. That's basically it. It's already pre-wired and everything. You just go in and set up stuff. The manual actually comes with like starting cook cycles, how long to cook stuff. It's got recipes in here.
Perfect.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I haven't had a chance to actually sit down and look through all of it yet, but yeah, we have so much. I got to do an actual update video on what we have going on for the shop, because I haven't even had a chance to do that. You know, with the stuff going on upstairs, the new equipment, the dirt work, the next plans. I didn't even do a final walkthrough.
You give me so much anxiety.
I haven't even got a chance to do like a final like update of what we had done already.
Right. You're just doing 1,000 more things.
And now it's like, it's going from here to here in the next couple months.
Oh,
but that's gonna. I think I'm gonna wait to do the electrical breakdown video until we get everything wired in and because then I'll be able to cover the sub panel and all that. But same thing, the way we ran our 400 amp service, there's no videos on it.
Right.
So I want to do a video on it to give people more options on how to run 400 amp, because 400 amp requires wire like this big around.
Right.
And not everybody has those tools to, I mean, a 200 amp, if you know anything about electric or you've done any kind of electric services, the 4-aught wire that you run for your 200 amp services, that's heavy duty stuff all on its own, and trying to get it to bend and twist, and you could do it with your hands. And I've done plenty like that. But when you're going anything bigger than that, you have to have specialized tools to get it to bend and work
Right.
around corners. And they don't give you a lot of room in panel boxes to make that happen.
Ew, they
So
don't give any room in panel boxes.
what we did is we ran double runs of 4-aught wire in. So instead of getting the bigger gauge wire, we used the same gauge wire that we ran for 200 amp,
Right.
but parallel runs for each one. And then we just bought the lugs that doubled up.
Perfect.
It made it easier for us to do it on our own.
Right.
We had a little bit more wire because you're pulling 2 runs for each leg,
but still,
it's easier to do on your own. You don't have to have specialized tools or anything
Right.
crazy. You can do it with the basic, Allen wrenches, a flathead screwdriver, knockout tool, and utility knife. Realistically. So I want to do a whole breakdown on how we set our 400 amp service up, just to hopefully if I can help one person that might not have the capabilities of running that larger gauge wire, but they want to put in a 400 amp service, because they are going to 300 or 400 amp service is going to become a lot more common with the push of electric cars. And
for sure,
for a quick charger on an electric car, minimum requirement is 100 amps on its own. Right. For the quick charger. It's a 50 amp breaker for the trickle charger. And depending on how low your battery is, it could take anywhere from 8 to 20 something hours to charge your car on that. Right. Now, what if you're working swing shifts and you have 6 hours in between your shift and your battery's almost dead because you've been working swing shifts all week? You don't have 8 to 15 hours, 20 hours to let your car charge.
Right.
So you better hope your workplace has a charger, or there's some place close by you can park and walk and let your car charge.
Right.
At least
that whole thing blows my mind still.
Yeah.
How much it's being pushed. It's crazy.
And nobody's grids are sophisticated.
There are a lot of places starting to walk it back now. Like a lot of places.
Well, they just came out with a study that I read the other day that they're finally saying, electric cars actually cause more emissions than a gas vehicle. Right. By the time you go through all the processes of building them.
Making them, yeah.
Yeah, in mining for all the
lithium and cobalt
and all that.
Yeah. Where you can apparently only get it in like Africa, and it's just collected by slaves.
Yeah.
Like
out of sight, out of mind. It's not happening in your backyard, so you don't care about it.
Right.
They're not ruining they're not ruining my backyard like fracking is, so
right.
That's just people's
mindset. There's a couple car companies. I don't remember them off the top of my hand, but I remember hearing it, that have completely walked back EVs in general, where they're just like, we're not putting any more time into this. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen the way they want it.
Yeah.
Like, I think our amazingly smart president said something like they wanted full electric vehicles for government officials. So like all of the government vehicles were going to be electric by like 2030 or something like that. It's like, sure.
I'm impressed, Kyle. You got that full sentence out from watching our president.
I know. I was able to say it clearly. That's it. And I can't read.
But I don't know. I understand the whole electric push thing and wanting to go green and everything. I get it. They want a better, for them, it's money. For the basic person that is thinking about it, we want a healthier environment for our families. We want something that our kids can take over someday. The way they're going about it isn't going to work. There ain't no way.
Well, it's like the sky's been falling since I've been alive.
Yeah.
Like, it's been always something: global warming, climate change, this, that, the other. And it's like, I get it. Yes. Maybe you shouldn't have built New Orleans underwater, like below sea level, and Miami in a swamp.
Yep.
Okay. We're on the earth that has constantly changed the entire time it's been a thing. Like, it hasn't been this temperature forever. Remember, we used to have dinosaurs and stuff like that. Like, it's constantly changing. And it's like, someone on Joe Rogan said it. It's like, yeah, it's not the global warming you should be scared of. It's the global cooling. That should scare you. Though that's when people die. Like, if it's hot out, people can kind of walk around. They can figure it out. Things are still going to grow. It's still going to have, we're going to have new coastline. Whatever. When everything's frozen, good luck staying warm.
Yeah. Like, seriously, the people don't think about that. When it starts turning the other way because the natural cycle,
Yeah.
I hope I'm not alive when it does that.
Right.
I'd much
But
rather
it's like,
do it 100
again,
degrees than
on the other, like, devil's advocate of it. It's like, yeah, the lake down at the bottom of the hill, this is the fastest it's been open
yeah.
the entire time I've lived here. Like, usually we still have ice. I think we were talking about it at the town meeting the other night. It's like, oh yeah, no, we were shoveling snow like last year at this time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this
It's
year's
like,
been even more mild than the last couple of years, and even
right.
those were not bad. And here
Yeah,
we
so
were.
it's like, I see it. I'm not saying it's not a thing, but I'm also saying it's like, I don't think it's the thing that we're all like, I love it as a farmer. I love it. I love that it's like, oh, the ground's not frozen anymore. I can start doing projects. I don't have to worry about feeding through cold weather, frozen hoses.
Grass is starting to get green already.
Oh yeah, I've already got grass starting to turn green. I'm like, all right, just walking outside, spraying the aerosol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and it has, like, we went into this winter. I specifically remember, I think I came on in early December, November. I can't remember. I've been on so much before I came on full time, but we had talked about there, oh no, it's going to be the most severe winter we've had in all these years. And, I was dreading that but it turned out, knock on wood, it turned out fairly decent so far. We're not out of the woods yet. It's only March.
Right.
Like I said, we've had snow in Western New York in May.
Oh yeah, we could get hit with 12 inches tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, so it's, I don't know. It is what it's yeah, the North. We're fun.
But it's been enjoyable for what we've had for weather, like 50s,
and I mean,
60s.
don't get me wrong. We've had 2 feet of snow at once here this winter. Like, we've had snow. We've had cold for sure. But usually it's continued. Like, we're still freezing right now. And it's like, I think I've run the wood stove back here twice this week. It's like, all right. And it's been the days I've been hanging out here more where it's like, all right, yeah, I guess I want it to be super comfortable so I can just hang out in a t-shirt and not be like chilly. But again, it's been in the 50s this whole week. So
I would never have even dreamed 2-3 years ago doing the amount of dirt work last week that I did.
Right.
There's just no way I could have got it done because the clay soil that we have.
No.
It's so messy and muddy, and it's not graded perfectly because we did get some rain. It's par for the course this time of year. We got some snow today, and then it went back to rain, and it went back to snow, and now it's back to 30 degrees, and it is what it is. But
and it's
my
like
dirt work's moved.
Right. I've made some confident moves on like moving pigs. My breeders are all the way out back. Because I was like, I need to deal with this fence, and because they were starting to dig out because their fence they had torn theirs to crap. Like, it wasn't that it wasn't on; they had just torn everything apart. So they were starting to get like nose under the woven wire, and I'm like, I already know we're going to be switching all this over. I don't want to play this. I don't need to deal with red. Like, it's one thing when it's like 200-pound piglet running around, or like 150-pound piglet running around, and they're good. They come back. All of a sudden, red's running down the middle of the road. I'm on the news. Like, it's
the Canadian super pigs are here.
Well, that's it. That's what he looks like. He is the Canadian super pig. And it's like, I don't need that. So we moved them all the way out back. I redid all that fencing and got that set up. And it's like, damn, if we get another week in the teens, I'm screwed. because
Yeah.
there's no super hard shelter out there. Like they've got a good tree line that they can get into and stuff. But these dumbasses are laying on a bed of hay in the middle of the pasture. So it's whatever. But it's like getting water out to them that's going to be tough if all of a sudden we get a bunch of teams.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, reminds me, I bought those gaskets you sent me.
Yeah.
I like them, kind of. I
Why?
wish the rubber gaskets were bigger, like the rubber washers were bigger,
Yeah.
because they're only like an eighth of an inch. So it's
Yeah.
if you go to tighten them, like super tighten them, they just work themselves out of the groove and leak anyway. So mine have been leaking a bit, but I don't know. I've had good luck with them. It hasn't been as bad as
maybe it's the brand that I sent you.
Maybe I don't know.
I'll try to find. I have some heavy duty ones. Like they are.
Well, it might be. Yeah,
and I think they have 1/4-inch gaskets with those ones.
Okay, yeah,
because they have a bunch of different brands.
Then that's my fault then, because I bought a 10-pack. Like I was like,
yeah,
I'm gonna do a bunch. Let me just buy a 10-pack. So I probably bought the crappy pack. They're working. I like them, and I see how they work way better.
Yeah,
like they already do. They already work way better. It's just a matter of like, I do have some leaks, but it is what it is. And of course,
now did those come with one gasket or 2 gaskets?
2 gaskets on either side, or one on either side.
Okay.
And of course they're a different size than the holes already pre-drilled.
Yeah. So
luckily I had 2 buckets laying around, but now I have 3 barrels with just holes in them that I'm like, now what?
You want to know a cool trick to get the bigger size in those?
What?
Get a block of 2x material.
Yeah.
Take the hole size that's in there. Take your hole saw and drill that out.
Mm-hmm.
Take that core, put it on the drill bit to the bigger size.
Yep.
And then then that core will actually be the pilot of the hole that's already there, and it'll hold it steady to go through.
No, they're small. They're smaller. The new gaskets are smaller.
Oh, they're smaller.
They're smaller.
Ooh, yeah. You can't
yeah.
fix
So
that.
now I just have 3 buckets with 9 holes in them. That I'm like, all right, I guess I'll turn them into feeders. Like,
yeah, maybe if you find a bigger, heavier duty, because they come in all different sizes. Mine are like that.
Oh, mine are not that.
Yeah,
mine are not that.
And they're like they're about this big around. Oh yeah, I have some of those too. I use those for my chicken waters.
Yeah,
but I've got the ones I use for my pig ones are like this big round, and the front is about that thick. That sticks out front of the barrel.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they're heavy duty ones, but I know I did buy the 10-pack like you did, but I use those for building my. I take a 1/2-inch PVC and then I'll glue for my chicken watering cups.
That makes way more sense. Yeah. All right. Well, they're working. They're absolutely working. I just have to like be conscious of like, I'm just going to go turn the waters on because.
Yeah. I want to say they're like 1.25 inches. You got to drill it out too, to get those ones to fit, the big ones.
Yeah. I had to. Yeah. Mine were like 1 inch. It was just over 1 inch.
Yeah.
That I did mine at. And I was like, this is dumb. I had to go out and buy a new hole saw. Like, and it was one of those days where it's like, I'm already in the middle of doing a whole bunch of farm stuff. Yeah. I might as well get this done, because if not, I'm going to have to go in and like half fix the barrel that's already a problem, and then got into it. And now nobody has water because I've already started the process. And I'm like, I got to go now, like back into town and do all this. My wife's just like, okay, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a couple tries of ordering the right ones, because I made that mistake where I got the wrong size. They weren't the right size threads for the pig nipples. I've had that happen to me.
Yep.
Where they were, I think I bought 3/4 inch threads and the pig nipples were 1/2 inch. Something like that for the interior. So it's all trial. Once you find the ones that you know you're looking for, then you Tractor Supply should carry them. Most of your hardware should have those somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So we'll get it worked out. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Once you actually physically see the ones I'm talking about, you're like, Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's
need.
it. Because I opened them and I'm like, these don't look hardy enough
I
for
bet.
these assholes.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
know my pigs, and they're gonna wreck the hell out of these things. And
Yeah,
they've held up. They've absolutely held up. But it's like if you go up to
Mhm.
the barrels, you can look and see just the water running down
Yeah.
underneath them. But it's again like the breeders. I need to go in and really fix that one, tighten that one up a little bit more. But it's
Mhm.
like the feeders. If I don't fill it for a day, it'll be down at the nipple that day, or like
Yeah.
or in about a day and a half, 2 days, which isn't bad. Like especially with 9 pigs drinking off of it, like it's pretty average. But again, it's all the fun stuff, all that little stuff that is just a pain in the butt. Our
Yeah.
next our next project is getting the knock box figured out. My
Mhm.
wife's uncle has welded me up some brackets for the headlock that I got,
Nice.
and then I just kind of need to design how
Yeah.
it's going to work, how I'm going to make it work, and it all needs to happen before the last week of April so I can get all of the pigs in, all the feeders in. Which luckily the winter paddock and the corral are right there. But
Yeah.
now I just got to figure out how the heck I'm getting all 9 of them. Again, it's a matter of 10 feet, maybe.
Yeah.
10 feet might as well be 10 miles when it comes to moving pigs. Of just like, all right, how am I going to build this in a way that they're going to go through it, that they're not going to be scared to go through it, and I'm going to have to spend
Mhm.
2 hours just getting them into the corral, and then make sure they're not going to escape out of the corral, and then do one at a time in the knock box. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is going to be fun. It's never a dull moment here at the
Yeah. I've
ranch.
got so much. Almost all my fence needs to be gone through and just it needs to be maintained because I let it go last year.
Right.
So either calves running through it, pigs throwing mud on it, whatever it may be. I think the whole pig pasture, I'm actually thinking about moving the breeders. I'm going to build a solid pen out of 2x6s, either 4x4s or 6x6s, 4x6s, whatever I can get my hands on.
Right.
And it's going to be 32-foot long, 16-foot wide for the boar.
Yeah.
A complete solid structure that he stays in full time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably get limestone or some kind of gravel to put in the bottom and just load it with wood chips. I'll use cattle panels for him just so I can build the bedding up, and I'll have the one end so the whole end swings open and I can get in there with a tractor or something to clean it out.
That's what I'm thinking for the winter sacrificial area for the breeders. Is I'm not going to do woven wire in the front because I also want to put a gate on the front of that big enough that I can get the tractor in, or I could get a skid steer in there. Because right now there's no way to get anything in there if I need to. So I'm going to build a gate already. And then I'm like, this is usually where they get fed. It's usually where they're bouncing off the fence.
Yep.
I'm just going to do it cattle panel and build it up so they can't dig under it.
Yep.
Like more than likely trench it, bury it like a foot, and then fill everything back in and make sure they can't get out of it.
I'm really considering. I've got 12-foot insulated. They're cooler panels that someone gave me years ago. I'm almost considering getting 4x4s and building like 12-foot by however long I can go with the insulated panels and building separate pens for all the pigs that I can bring them into when they farrow, and then have the boar pens completely separate, but have a working system so I can put them out in pasture when I want them in the pasture. But I got a controlled spot that I can work them.
It's so important. It's so important to have something,
because farrowing out on pasture for what I'm doing,
it's tough.
It's not the best.
No,
because trying to separate and work, my sows aren't like Tally. They're not. You don't go in there and pick up the piglets and get out of there without getting something bit, or at least a chance of that happening. And they're nice otherwise, but they're aggressive mothers. They're not allowing me to go in there and mess with them.
Right. It just is what it is.
So with that type of facility, even if it's insulated lean-to, I have doors on the shelters that I can close and lock if I need to get in there with the piglets and do something, or I need to lock them in for some reason. And then have the hog panel, even if it's a 16 by 16 foot or a 16 by 12 foot outdoor area, so the sows can still get out and get some exercise while they're nursing. That'll keep the piglets from getting out. If I use actual hog panels for the farrowing pens, and then the boar pen, I can use cattle panels on, so it can build up with bedding.
Right.
And then I can put my feeders and the breeders when I'm not breeding out in the pastures.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a better.
That's where it's like, I need to get this project done, get all the topsoil and everything pulled out in that pen and get it fixed back up so I can bring the girls back in. Because it's like they're due end of May. So I have time. But you can only
how that goes, though.
Yeah. No, yeah. You can only
time goes quick, and then you're like,
yeah. I was just about to say, you can only say I have time so many times because there's going to be a point where you have no time.
Yep.
So, but yeah, we're just going to tear off all that topsoil from 3 years of pigs, level it out, get it nice and clean, and then just load it with wood chips. Like my neighbor's like, how much you want? Like, we'll load it up.
Yeah.
No, have just a wicked nice base layer. I think some of the material I'm going to put in the back like the back section of that paddock, because they're both fenced off, but that section's super sandy. Like for whatever reason, just with the way everything washes down, not a lot of topsoil hangs out there. So I think what I'm going to do is try and take some of that topsoil, put it out back with some wood chips, and just kind of layer it and try to build up that area a little bit.
Yeah.
But that way, because it's like, I don't want to have them having piglets in there right now because it's just gross. Like it's just muddy, sandy, just 3 years of pig shit soup.
Yep.
Which just turns into that slurry. And it's like, I don't want them having piglets in there.
Yeah.
And then it turns into...
I've got my other two sows. They're due April, May.
Right.
They should be, as long as he bred them in time. So, and I'm dealing with the same thing, except for sand. I've got clay, mud, and they've been in the same area for a couple of years. So I think if I'm considering widening the driveway up at the cabin, so it's easier to get trucks and trailers in for hay, getting hay in and out. But also I'm thinking about extending the driveway right up to the new pig pens. So I have a working chute on the outside edge, but then I can move the board of the sow pens, vice versa, but then have a loading chute right to I can back the trailer up from the main driveway right to it. Because if I'm going to keep doing pigs, I either need to invest some money into building the right facilities, or I need to just get rid of the breeding stock and do feeders.
Right.
Because what I'm doing right now, it's serving its purpose, but it sucks.
Right.
Like it's an absolute nightmare trying to breed and raise piglets and castrate in a timely manner and catch pigs to sell, load them, get a vehicle up there. It's almost not worth, I got to figure out what I'm doing. And then not only that, we haven't even got to this point. I just picked up possibly 2 more properties to graze on. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Like I was planning on downsizing this year, but at the same time, you don't come along, come upon cheap grazing land very often that the people are good to work with.
Right.
And you don't want to pass it up. Try it out for the first year, see what you can do, and then move forward with it or decide that it's not going to work.
Right.
But if you get one season of grazing out of it, why not try it?
Right. You might as well.
So that's where I'm at with that. So now I'm not downsizing on cows at all. I'm at least keeping what I have and seeing how this year goes.
Right.
Revisit the issue before winter. See how much hay I have in store. And because I'm not, there's no way I can do what I did this year and buy hay all winter.
You're nuts.
I financially can't.
You're nuts.
So,
yeah. All the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Man, we really can talk.
Yep.
An hour flew.
It did. Too fast.
Absolutely. And we just lost our last viewer.
I honestly, I think a lot of them are over.
Everyone's at the
Yes.
SRF thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it is what it is. We wanted to get out a bonus episode.
Yep.
So
They can come back and listen to it later.
Yeah, exactly. They can come back and listen to it later and watch it later or do whatever. Because guess what? We're putting it out because why not? So
Exactly.
everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show. And like I said, we have a super fun one next week. So
Yep.
Joe, where can everyone find you in between that?
Here every week with Kyle on Meet the Critters, Blakesley Acres on YouTube and Facebook. Email should be on every video description. If you need to get a hold of me, email is probably the best direct way. Another thing I was thinking of, any of our listeners that aren't watching the video, that we might not talk to on a daily basis, like our basic people that we know, like Rachel and Tyler.
Right.
If you guys want or have a cool thing to maybe bring to the show, get a hold of me or Kyle and we'll work you in. We're always looking for more people to pull on and interview. So
absolutely. No, for sure. Yeah. If you are or know anyone that would be good on the show they're doing something cool in agriculture.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't have to be meat. I mean, I think John Dowie is the highest rated episode on this show, and he grows microgreens.
Yeah,
in Southern New Hampshire.
Anything. Like it could be homesteading. It doesn't necessarily. You don't have to be making a profit off of it. Just come on and talk about your homestead. If you have a small YouTube channel or TikTok or whatever that you're want to get out there and you're putting out similar content to what we're doing.
Yeah, I have another really good person who. He said he would come on, and we just don't have a date yet. It's Zach Nash on TikTok. He's down in Southern Mississippi.
Awesome.
And his stuff is great right now. He's blowing up on TikTok. So we're going to get him on, and that'll be fun. And to piggyback on all that as well, if you are a vegan or know any vegans, I'm trying to do lives on TikTok. So either come my way or send them my way, because I would love to chat and have a conversation.
And we'll bring you on the podcast.
You
can't cancel us out there.
Right. Well,
but honestly,
I thought about it, and that would be hard. It would have to be two vegans come on, because if it was both of us, it would feel like piggybacking, because I know both of us, and we're not going to let any of that shit slide.
No.
And we're hard enough for people to deal with when they agree with our values. It might be a bit tough to have someone.
The problem with it is like, I'm pretty respectful in the most part.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to holler at you and tell you you're wrong. My big thing is I want to see their point of view, but I also want them to listen to our point of view on it.
Right. Because they don't.
And not get offended. Like, to be honest with you, I don't care what anybody does in their personal life. You want to eat vegetables? Fine. And some people have health things that's all they can eat.
Right.
Like, the Murray Gray breeder that is coming on. I did get dates for him. I got to get with you on. I can't remember the name. He has something that when he eats red meat, certain types of red meat, it makes him sick.
Yeah.
He raises cattle and stuff. And, but people that usually they don't have a choice in the matter, that's their diet because of their health.
Right.
They have a little bit more understanding than the people that are just blinded by red meat gives you cancer and it's so bad for you and it's bad for them.
We're in the middle of plugs and we're right back into vegans. My problem with it is I agree. I completely understand your point of view. You are welcome to it. And if you can pull more people onto your side, absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. Don't call what I do to feed my family and support my family a genocide. Because it's not. No. You've been vegan for 2 years and you're eating fake meat. You're not even you don't have a big garden where you're growing all your own food, and you volunteer at local animal sanctuaries, and you're sitting there giving a popsicle to some crusty looking 23-year-old Holstein that's just holding on to life. Yeah. You're not doing that. No. you're in some flat, just eating oatmeal and talking to people on TikTok and just making fun of everyone about the genocide. I'm not bitter at all. Yeah, come talk to me. I promise I won't be mean. I promise. But anyway, you can also find me everywhere at BackwoodsButcher603. That is YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And yeah, the Telegram group, all the links to both me and Joe's stuff are in the description of this. If you have Telegram and you want to join the Critter Crew, come on in. Send us an invite. We'll get you in. So until next time, folks, we'll see ya.
See ya.